After only about 2 years of use, my car's battery died. So I gave the car a jump and checked the system voltage to find that it was only running about 12 volts. This indicates there's likely a problem with the alternator since we should be seeing somewhere between 13 and 15 volts while the car's running. So I tested the alternator by disconnecting the battery's negative connection while the car was running, and it died. I was pretty sure I had a bad alternator on my hands, so I purchased a high output alternator from PA Performance, and in this video we'll be installing it and an upgraded power wire on my 2007 Mustang GT. This alternator can output about 50% more amps than a stock unit, and I chose to upgrade for 2 reasons. First, this Mustang has an underdrive pulley, which means the alternator is always spinning at a lower rate relative to stock, which often results in reduced system voltage, especially at idle. And secondly, I do plan on installing a Fast and the Furious style sound system one day, so I can properly bump Mac Dre. Now this Mustang has quite a few mods, so your install process will vary slightly depending on your setup, but this video should provide a quick and accurate guide for most 2005 to 2010 Mustang GTs. We kick things off by disconnecting the negative battery connection. Then we'll disconnect the mass airflow sensor from the intake, disconnect the PCV tube from the intake elbow, and loosen the clamp that holds the intake to the throttle body. Once that's done, remove the 2 10mm bolts holding the intake to the fender apron and remove the entire intake from the engine bay. Next, we'll disconnect the electrical connections on both sides of the throttle body. Now this Mustang has an upgraded throttle body and intake manifold, so its throttle body is held into place with 4 10mm bolts, but yours is most likely mounted with 2 8mm nuts on top and 2 10mm bolts on the bottom. Now that the throttle body's been removed, we can easily access the alternator. But since I have an underdrive pulley, I actually have to remove the idler pulley first so I can pull the alternator out. You can skip this step if you're running the stock idler. The idler is held into place with 4 8mm bolts, and you'll likely find that trying to loosen them causes the idler to rotate, so use another wrench on a different bolt to hold the idler in place. And for the last bolt, you can prevent the idler from spinning by sticking a screwdriver through one of the empty holes. Now we'll remove the serpentine belt from the alternator pulley by sticking a 1/2 inch drive into the tensioner and rotating clockwise. Be careful to not let the belt slip off any of the other pulleys, and consider taking a reference photo just in case. Now we can begin the process of removing the alternator by removing the 2 10mm bolts from the bracket. Take note that the driver's side bolt is longer. Then remove the 2 13mm nuts on the bottom. Once those are removed, pull and rotate the alternator out to expose its back. Disconnect the electrical connection and peel back the boot that covers the terminal. Remove the 10mm nut and disconnect the power wire. And finally, remove the alternator from the engine bay. Next, we'll remove the 2 8mm bolts holding the bracket to the alternator and install the bracket on the new alternator. Torque the bolts to 89 pound-inches. Now since this alternator is capable of outputting significantly more amps than the stock unit, we'll also be installing a larger power wire to handle the extra load. You can skip this part if you're installing an OEM or equivalent alternator. We begin the process of removing the power wire by slicing open and removing the loom that wraps the power wire and the alternator's electrical connection. Your power wire most likely runs above the passenger side fuel rail to the battery. In my case, it runs directly to a distribution block, but the removal process should be similar. Now we'll install the new wire, but instead of just draping it over the valve cover or running it back above the fuel rail, I'm actually going to run it behind the engine and under the intake manifold for a clean install. But before I do that, I add extra insulation to the power wire by sheathing it with some heater hose and using a clamp to keep the hose in place. Then I transplant the boot from the old wire and wrap the rest of the power wire with plastic loom. And to prevent the hose from sitting directly on the coolant crossover pipe, I zip tie a small piece of hose on top of the pipe to serve as a buffer. This approach is a bit crude, but it should prevent rubbing and reduce heat transfer. Then finally, I fish the power wire between the firewall and the intake manifold, pull the wire through the valley, and rest it on the buffer hose. Now that the upgraded power wire is installed, we can hook up the new alternator. Rest the front of the new alternator on the radiator hose and attach the power wire by torquing the 10mm nut to 71 pound-inches. Then reconnect the electrical connection and position the alternator into place. Reinstall the 2 10mm bolts and the 2 13mm nuts and torque them to 18 pound-feet. Now that the new alternator is installed, we can begin the process of putting everything back together. And if you had to remove the idler pulley, reinstall it now, but only hand tighten the bolts. Use a 1/2 inch drive to rotate the tensioner clockwise and place the serpentine belt on the alternator pulley. Double check the belt is properly seated on all the pulleys, and then you can torque the 4 8mm idler bolts to 18 pound-feet. Now reinstall the throttle body and torque the bolts and or nuts to 89 pound-inches. Then reconnect its 2 electrical connections. Place the intake back in the engine bay, Hand tighten the 10mm airbox bolts and tighten the clamp that seals the intake elbow to the throttle body. Reconnect the mass airflow sensor, passenger side PCV tube, and double check you didn't miss any connections. And finally, reconnect the battery's negative terminal.